The Rockies give you the postcard and dare you to relax into it. Snow on the high peaks in July, a meadow full of wildflowers, an alpine lake so clear it looks like nothing could be living in it. You pull over at the overlook and breathe it in, and the word that comes to mind is pure, clean, thin, empty air. A place too high and too cold to be dangerous. But altitude is not safety. Everything up here is built for this country, and you are not. The animals in that meadow have watched 100 generations of people walk through and call it peaceful. They know exactly how close they can be before you notice. And in the Rockies, by the time you notice, the distance is already gone. Locals who live at elevation don't mistake thin air for gentle country. And they've learned that the danger up here rarely looks the way visitors expect. Here are 15 animals sharing this range with you, starting with the ones almost nobody thinks to watch for until it's too late. Most visitors assume rattlesnakes belong to the desert floor, not the high country, which is exactly the assumption that gets people bitten. Prairie rattlesnakes range surprisingly high into Rocky Mountain foothills and lower alpine terrain, sunning themselves on the same sunny rock outcrops hikers use for a break or a photo. Their hemotoxic venom works the same way it would anywhere else, breaking down tissue and blood, and a bite miles from a trailhead becomes a serious emergency fast. Precisely because most people hiking at elevation never thought to watch the ground the way they would in classic rattlesnake country. That gap between expectation and reality is exactly why prairie rattlesnake encounters in Rocky Mountain foothill towns catch longtime hikers off guard, people who've walked the same trail for years without incident, right up until the one afternoon they didn't watch where they sat down. Black widow spiders don't stop at the plains either. They follow warm, sheltered microclimates well up into Rocky Mountain foothill towns, tucking themselves into wood piles, garden sheds, and the undersides of porch furniture in the exact same way they would at lower, warmer elevations. Their neurotoxic venom causes severe muscle cramping and abdominal pain intense enough to be mistaken for a medical emergency of a completely different kind. And locals who've lived at elevation for years still get caught off guard by how comfortable this spider is in cooler mountain air than most people assume it could tolerate. Ticks are the quiet, constant companion of Rocky Mountain hiking season, clinging to grass and low brush at exactly the height of a passing leg. The Rocky Mountain wood tick carries its own regional threat, Colorado tick fever, along with the broader risk of Rocky Mountain spotted fever that shares this range's name for a reason. Symptoms often start vague: fever, fatigue, headache, easy to dismiss as a rough day at altitude, which is exactly why hikers who pull a tick off after a long day on the trail are told to watch themselves for weeks afterward, not just wash the bite and move on. The wolverine holds the same reputation in the Rockies that it does further north. A small, powerful, fiercely territorial animal built to survive brutal winters other predators avoid. Rocky Mountain wolverines are exceptionally rare and elusive, ranging across enormous stretches of high, remote terrain, which means most people who live and hike here will never see one directly. But wildlife biologists who study the species describe an animal capable of driving bears off a kill and crushing frozen bone with its jaw. A reminder that size in this range has very little to do with how dangerous an animal actually is. Mountain goats look like the gentlest thing on this list. White, shaggy, grazing calmly on a cliffside meadow. And that image has cost people dearly. These animals have grown so accustomed to hikers along popular Rocky Mountain trails that some individuals lose their natural wariness entirely, approaching people directly for the salt and sweat, urine, or gear. A mountain goat that feels crowded or is drawn in by that salt craving can gore with short, sharp horns capable of serious, sometimes fatal injury, and wildlife officials in the range have had to close trails and relocate habituated goats after repeated aggressive encounters with hikers who assumed the animal was simply posing for a photo. What makes goats particularly deceptive is the absence of any clear warning display most people would recognize. No bluff charge, no obvious posturing, just a calm animal that closes distance steadily until it's already too close to safely back away from. Those 5 are the ones almost nobody expects walking into this range for the first time. What comes next moves with more obvious teeth and claws, animals locals respect not because they're rare, but because they're common enough to be part of daily life at elevation. Coyotes have adapted to Rocky Mountain towns and trailheads with remarkable ease, moving comfortably along the edges of neighborhoods, golf courses, and hiking paths where food, intentional or not, is easy to find. Individually, a coyote poses limited direct threat to an adult, but they've grown bold enough in some mountain communities to approach small pets and even people expecting a handout. And packs working together during denning season defend territory with more aggression than most visitors assume a coyote is capable of. Bobcats move through Rocky Mountain forest and rock country largely unseen, solitary, low to the ground, built for ambush rather than pursuit. Direct encounters with people are rare, and bobcats generally want nothing to do with humans. But a cornered or rabid bobcat is a genuinely dangerous animal, capable of inflicting serious lacerations with claws built for taking down prey several times their own size. Rural residents at the edge of bobcat territory know the signs of a sick or unusually bold cat and treat any bobcat approaching rather than fleeing as an animal that needs distance immediately. Wolves have returned to parts of the Rockies after decades of absence, most famously through reintroduction efforts that rebuilt packs across the northern portion of the range. That return has been a genuine ecological success story, restoring balance to elk populations and river ecosystems alike. But it has also reintroduced a coordinated predator that ranchers and hikers in these areas have not had to account for in generations. Wolf packs hunt strategically, communicating across distances and working together in ways a lone predator never could. And livestock owners along the range's northern reaches have had to relearn protective habits their grandparents once relied on daily. Ranchers who had gone generations without needing to think about wolves at all now schedule night checks and reinforce fencing during calving season, a routine that essentially skipped an entire lifetime before reappearing almost overnight as packs reestablished territory across the northern range. Elk are one of the defining images of the Rockies, but during the fall rut, bulls defending territory and cows become dramatically more dangerous than their peaceful grazing reputation suggests. A rutting bull elk, driven by hormones and competition, will charge with antlers capable of serious injury, and Rocky Mountain towns positioned near elk migration routes see a predictable spike in aggressive encounters every autumn, often involving people who got too close for a photo without recognizing the warning signs of a bull working itself into a challenge posture. Bison round out this tier as the most statistically dangerous large animal in several Rocky Mountain parks, goring more visitors than any other species, despite looking slow and placid grazing near a roadside. A bison can accelerate explosively over short distances, far faster than most people expect from an animal that size, and their horns combined with sheer mass make even a defensive charge capable of life-threatening injury. Park rangers across the range repeat the same warning every season. A bison that looks unbothered by nearby tourists can close the distance in seconds, and the animal, not the person, decides when that distance has become a problem. Every year brings fresh footage of visitors approaching within a few feet for a photo, and every year rangers point to the same statistic. Bison injure more people in these parks than bears, wolves, and mountain lions combined, precisely because their apparent calm convinces people the normal rules don't apply. Those 5 explain most of what actually sends people to Rocky Mountain emergency rooms every year. What's left are the 4 animals people picture first when they think of danger in this range: and they deserve to be understood individually rather than lumped together as one generic fear. The mountain lion is the Rockies' most elusive apex predator, an ambush hunter built for stealth rather than confrontation, capable of taking down prey many times its own size from cover. Direct attacks on people remain rare, but Rocky Mountain trail systems increasingly overlap with prime lion habitat, and encounters cluster around dawn and dusk when the cats are most active. Wildlife officials across the range give consistent advice: make yourself look large, hold eye contact, and never run, because running triggers the exact chase instinct that makes an ambush predator dangerous in the first place. Black bears are the most numerous bear species across the Rockies, adaptable enough to thrive near towns, campgrounds, and hiking corridors throughout the range. Statistically less dangerous than their larger cousins, black bears have nonetheless become a consistent source of conflict, specifically because of food conditioning, learning to associate coolers, dumpsters, and unsecured campsites with an easy meal. A food-conditioned black bear that's lost its wariness of people behaves in ways a genuinely wild bear never would, which is why Rocky Mountain Park rangers treat food storage regulations as seriously as they treat the bears themselves. Grizzlies occupy the northern reaches of the Rockies in numbers that have been slowly recovering for decades, powerful, territorial, and capable of remarkable speed over short distances despite their bulk. Most grizzly attacks happen when a bear is startled at close range, defending cubs or defending a carcass, which is exactly why hikers throughout grizzly country are taught to make consistent noise on the trail. A grizzly that hears people coming from a distance will almost always choose to move off rather than confront. But the encounters that go wrong tend to be the ones where neither party had any warning at all. A blind curve on a trail, dense brush muffling footsteps, wind carrying scent the wrong direction. Guides throughout grizzly country describe these surprise encounters as fundamentally different from any other entry on this list, because the bear isn't hunting or defending territory in the usual sense. It's reacting in the same startled instant a person is. And then there's the animal most visitors never expect to fear in mountain country at all. Moose move through Rocky Mountain willow flats and riverside meadows in surprising numbers, and unlike the range's bears, they show little instinct to avoid people. Wildlife officials throughout the Rockies will tell you moose cause more injuries every year than any bear species combined. Because a moose that feels crowded, especially a cow with a calf or a bull during rut, will charge without the warning postures hikers are trained to watch for in bear country. An animal that size, moving that fast, in terrain that offers almost nowhere to retreat, catches even experienced hikers completely off guard. Willow flats along Rocky Mountain rivers give moose excellent cover right up until they're standing in the open, which means the classic encounter here isn't a distant sighting across a meadow. It's a sudden, close appearance on a narrow trail with steep terrain on either side and nowhere obvious to go. That's 14 animals capable of ending an encounter badly in an instant: venom, horns, claws, hooves, or sheer mass. And if you had to guess what actually causes the most harm to people across the Rockies every single year, your mind probably went straight to the grizzly, or the mountain lion, or the bison charging across an open meadow. You'd be wrong. The true number one in the Rockies isn't an animal at all. It's the altitude itself, and everything it quietly does to a body that evolved somewhere lower and thicker with oxygen. Thin air at elevation impairs judgment before a hiker ever notices anything's wrong. The same kind of subtle disorientation that makes people misjudge distance from a mountain goat, misread a bison's body language, or push on past the point where turning back was still the safe option. Add in weather that can shift from sunny to hypothermic in under an hour, and exposure becomes the quiet force multiplier behind nearly every other entry on this list. It's the reason a snake bite miles from a trailhead becomes life-threatening, the reason a minor fall from startled footing turns into a mountainside emergency. The reason distance and difficulty conspire against every encounter up here in ways they simply don't at sea level. Search and rescue teams across the range will tell you the same pattern shows up in report after report. Not a single dramatic failure, but a string of small ones, a late start, a thinner jacket than the weather deserved, a decision to press on past the point where turning back was still easy, each one compounding until the mountain itself becomes the actual emergency. And that's the real shape of the thesis this whole list has been building toward. The Rockies hand you the postcard, the clean air, the quiet meadow, the lake too clear to hide anything, and dare you to believe that's the whole picture. It never is. The animals here have watched 100 generations of people walk through calling it peaceful, and they've learned exactly how close they can get before anyone notices. By the time you do up here, the distance is already gone. If you found this fascinating, hit subscribe for more stories like this.